Tonight, 8 o'clock on ESPN at the Foster Pavilion, Texas. 9-9 now, or 8-8, excuse me, in the Big 12 as they've had a nice little run and a team that's going to be in the tournament. Just a matter of what seed they're in. Baylor with a nice win against KU, and now they 10-6 overall in the conference after the win against the Jayhawks on Saturday. Kirk Bohls, Austin American-Statesman on 365 Sports. How would you describe the season that Rodney Terry and Texas have had at this point? Kirk, thanks for your time, by the way.
I would say topsy-turvy with a whole lot of turvy. It's been disappointing, Smoke, to be honest. And I think nobody truly expected another Elite Eight caliber team, I don't think. But you know how that can spoil you really quickly. And they get spoiled really quickly around here. And they didn't replace the talent they lost. I'll put it that way. And they just haven't looked as cohesive with great chemistry like they did all year last year.
Kirk, what do you think the long-term future is for Rodney Terry? Because this is a roster, like I know they didn't maybe expect an Elite Eight, but given the talent that they have, especially in the starting five, I think the expectations were higher than being the first or the last four in most bracket projections.
Yeah, they weren't looking for a bubble team, Paul. You're right. No question about that. I think everybody kind of figured it'd be something in between, like, okay, not that you take for granted a Sweet 16, type of season, but I think it was kind of more in that area because, they lost, Marcus Carr and Timmy Allen, Jabari Rice, Christian Bishop, guys that played a whole lot and had been together a couple years. And then they just didn't make the inroads in the portal like they did a couple years earlier. They did get Max Asmus out of Oral Roberts, obviously, and he's as good a scorer as Texas has had in a long time. But they could have used another wing. They kind of dropped the ball there, and they've kind of looked for a reliable third offensive option all year long, and that's kind of one of the things that's plagued them. And they just haven't played great defense. Like they have before.
So, Kirk, how would you describe them rolling in after a couple of wins? I mean, the Texas Tech win out in Lubbock, I think, was surprising to a lot of people. Oklahoma State, everybody's kind of, hit them up this year. But what kind of ball is Texas playing rolling into tonight here in Waco?
Well, much, much better. And, I didn't mean to downplay them that much because, like Smoke said, I mean, I'm almost positive they're going to be in the playoff. When he accidentally said 9-9, Texas would take 9-9 right now, with tonight's road game and then Saturday against Oklahoma here in Austin. So they actually come in with a degree of some momentum. You mentioned the win at Texas Tech, which was kind of surprising, and I don't know if Texas Tech, just didn't respond with the same sense of urgency Texas had because Texas was sitting there at 6-8. They weren't sure of anything. And, now to win those two and get back to the level 8-8 was just, that was the first time they'd won back-to-back games since January, back when they beat Baylor in Oklahoma. So it's been, 5 weeks since they'd won two in a row. But they seem to, their confidence is back a little bit. And I think they're getting great play off the bench from Brock Cunningham and Kendall Weaver. That's been a real big benefit for them, I'd say, the last few weeks.
Brock Cunningham has been called a lot of things, and probably some of them are very true. That deal in Lubbock could have gotten even worse. I was amazed it didn't get more out of hand. What would you say? Is he an instigator? Is he? What is he for them? Is he an inspiration at times for them because he kind of gets people on edge? What is he?
Well, he's definitely a spark plug for them, and he's a nice guy. He's not, we've all covered some guys when we went, I don't know, I may want him in the foxhole with me, but he can get a little dirty. He does the dirty work, but he's not a dirty player. He doesn't mind getting on the floor, and he's going to be physical. Don't get me wrong, we all know that. but he's not a dirty player, even though that was as clear a flagrant 2 foul as I've ever seen. And there was just so much contact there. That was an easy call. But he's a little bit of a villain on the road, but he's beloved at home. And, you know, when he was ejected from that Tech game, you know, he was giving them the hook 'em horn way to the locker room. So, you know, he does kind of delight in that whole rivalry thing. That's for sure.
I was going to say,
Yeah, if they had a
the
vote about whether he's a dirty player in the conference.
the good people of Lubbock, Texas would debate your assessment. But
He's not like Grayson Allen, remember, who tripped like 2 players per game, you know. He's not like that, but he's been here 12 years, so, you know, I'd probably be a little dirty player after 12 years, you know. So
he can go
I think he's probably going to leave after this year, though.
He could go play tight end at Miami and have a year left of eligibility. Kirk, the combine, Texas, of course, has had 1 or 2 a player flash, but they had themselves a hell of a weekend in Indianapolis with Xavier Worthy, Mitchell, obviously Sweat, Murphy, among others. Was that the best combine performance they've had since Mac Brown was in a national championship game or sometime around that time?
No question about it. I mean, they sent 11 to the combine, and not that any of us were surprised because we kind of, you know, Sark was kind of raving about them all year, and we were kind of predicting it during the fall. But I think from outsiders, because, you know, just a couple of years ago they had 0. You know, 0 players drafted for the second time in school history, and then to go from that to 11 with, you know, possible 2 or maybe 3 first-round draft picks. You know, Byron Murphy's kind of considered the number 1 defensive tackle. And then you look at what the receivers, Mitchell and Worthy, did up in Indianapolis. That opened a whole lot of eyes. And, you know, personally, I think A.D. Mitchell's a first-round draft pick because, you know, he had 1 drop and 86 targets this year. Wow. 1 drop. He scored a touchdown in every playoff game. You know, that's 4 for Georgia and 1 for Texas. And you know, at the end of that Sugar Bowl against Washington, they're throwing in the end zone the last 3 plays. All 3 of those were A.D. Mitchell, not Xavier Worthy. So he has as good a hands as I've ever seen here at Texas. And he's 6'2", a physical 6'2". Xavier Worthy is just a blur. He can get up and down so fast. And you saw he set the combine record at 4.21. But he also weighed in as 165 guys and missed 200, so that sets him apart also.
Kirk, would you say 3 first-round draft picks is possible if you say Worthy, Mitchell, and Byron Murphy for the Horns?
I think it's possible. I kind of think both of those receivers will not go in the first round because it's such a deep class with the 2 kids at LSU and Marvin Harrison and Roma Dunze, and, you know, just go down the list. They're not good, but they're great wide receivers. And I think, you know, Texas, too, are in that conversation as well. But if I had to guess, I think Byron Murphy, and for my money, I'd take A.D. Mitchell. But, you know, Worthy's also a punt returner and can return kickoffs. And like you say, he can fly. So, but I'd say 2 are likely. Maybe if things fall right, they might get 3.
Kirk, when Texas and OU, or when Brent Zerneman had the story that Texas and OU were leaving for the SEC that kind of opened up the floodgates in college football, at the time, you wondered about where UT would be, positioned to go into a conference that has at least better at the top, not sure about top to bottom, but better with who they had with Saban, Kirby Smart, LSU, etc. But this happened to them also when they entered the Big 12, with Nebraska was the alpha. K-State was Snyder. Osborne retired 2 years into that. Saban's retiring before they even get there. Is that kind of a reminiscence, a break in a way, even though they beat Saban straight up in Tuscaloosa?
Well, a little bit. I mean, it's a break for everybody in the SEC that Nick's not going to be on the sideline anymore. There's no question about that. But the only reason I would stop that similarity a little bit, Smoke, is that Texas only won 3 conference titles in 27 years.
Yeah.
You know, whereas Oklahoma won 14. And you could argue that Texas is, you know, moving into the SEC in a much better position than Oklahoma, you know, because, you know, Brent Venables, you know, like Sark was going into this year, he's still trying to sort it out. he had a turnaround season, but they lost Dylan Gabriel. He transferred, and they got a Jackson Arnold, a young sophomore quarterback. So, but yeah, I think they're going in at a good time. And even though they're losing 11 players to the NFL, if not more. He's had a top 5 recruiting class 3 years in a row too. So, if he can find some plug some holes in that defensive line, which was such a strength last year, and they're already being mentioned as kind of a co-favorite with Georgia. So they're sitting pretty right now, at least on paper.
Well, I mean, look, I know they haven't won a national title since 2005, but Smokey's actual question to you is, what genie or wizard did they make some sort of agreement with that the best coach in the conference would retire like right after they joined them every time?
I'm sure they paid him off. I'm sure, they got some money extra, and obviously Nick needed the money. So that was just a shocker, and to be honest, guys, that's a disappointment for me. I want the great coaches and the great players, stay in college forever, and it's just not as interesting without Nick Saban, in college football, because nobody's done what he does, and I've said this: he's the best coach in any level, any sport. For him to do that with we know the turnover of rosters in college football. Belichick, he won all his 6 titles, with Tom Brady, and then Tom goes to Tampa and win one. Well, Nick was doing it with a rotating quarterback. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, staff instability. He would name half his staff would turn over each year. So, he just, I could go on, but I really wish he was still here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, are you going to be at the Foster Pavilion, or is that Cedric, or are you going to be here, or are you going to be watching from home?
Yeah, I watch from home. It's Cedric's turn. We alternate games. So, all right. So it's Texas hopes lie with Cedric. So it's up to him if the Hornets don't. He should be blamed.
He's a very talented young man. Thank you, Kirk. Appreciate your time, buddy. Always great to have you on the show and catching up on what's happening with UT in Austin. Have a great night.
Okay, thanks for asking me. Enjoy the game.
Thank you very much. Kirk Bohls, the Austin American-Statesman on 3